Welcome to the Leverage Show. This is Brett Ingram. I was reading a recent statistic by Bloomberg, and I was shocked to find that 8 out of 10 entrepreneurs who start businesses will actually fail in the first 18 months. I knew the number was high, but I had thought things had improved. And so it got me thinking about why entrepreneurs, so many of them, fail when they try to start businesses. I looked up a lot of different articles and a lot of different news sources to find out what they attributed entrepreneurial failure to. And I was even more shocked to find that a lot of them, I think, list symptoms of the problem and not the real problem. And so I want to share with you what the real problem is and what it is that causes so many entrepreneurs to fail, and then what you can do to prevent that from happening to you. So among some of the things that are listed were things like, the partner or the owner, loses interest or whatever. Those things happen. And, if you're not involved and engaged in your business, sure, it's going to fail. I don't really think that that's rocket science for why a business would fail. But when we get around to issues of economics, the company is not well funded, it runs out of money, or, the competition gets too tough, or the, customers, don't shift with market conditions, or they don't change to meet demands, or all these other things. And I'm thinking there, as I'm reading it, they're dancing around what the real issue is. The real issue at the core of all of this, and it's when you solve it, you solve all of these other problems, is that a lot of entrepreneurs just flat out don't understand their customers. They either don't know who their customers are, or they think their customers are someone other than who they really are. And in either case, it's a really dangerous situation, because what happens is sometimes people actually succeed or have a little bit of success by accident. They don't really get into a market and analyze who their prospects and customers are and really get down to the details of what makes them tick. Instead, what they do is just sort of create a product and throw it out there and then hope that it sells. And if it starts to sell, wow, we're doing great. And they start to build a business around that. But there isn't any strong foundation. It's like trying to build a house without pouring the foundation first. It might look good for a little bit, but eventually it's going to collapse. There is no other way that it can happen. And so I want to share with you some ideas about, first of all, the level of knowledge you need to have about your customers, and then second of all, how to get that knowledge, because this is going to arm you with something that will make your business absolutely invincible, and it will make you impervious to any competition. You won't even need to worry about that kind of stuff. So that's the reason that a lot of people get into that situation. They don't really analyze their customers in the first place. So when we're talking about knowing your customer, what are we talking about? Well, there's a superficial level. There is, what my customers are basically interested in, what their demographics are. Are they men or women? Or are they both? Are they college educated, high school educated, or neither? Are they, do they earn over $100,000 a year, or under? Do they, have children or not? Do they own a home or not? All those demographic type things are definitely interesting to know and useful. Okay, they are important. Age bracket is an important one, because at the different ages, people go through different stages of life, and what is important to them changes. What their issues and priorities are change. And so you need to take that into account when you're doing the marketing. But there's a whole nother level of understanding that actually goes a lot deeper than that. And it's important that you get to this level too, because if you're on the superficial level, okay, that can help you to some extent. You can certainly gather some information from that. You can certainly make some assumptions from that. But what you really want to know, and this comes back to buying behavior in the first place, no matter how logical a buy your product is. If you sell faucets, everybody needs a faucet to be able to, drink water and poured out of the spout. So it's a logical buy in a lot of ways, but even still, there is competition. People make decisions on purchases based on emotion, and then they reinforce that with the intellectual side of things or the logic. And so it's important to understand that. So you want to tap into the emotional needs of your customer. And you're not really going to be able to do that by knowing how old they are and by knowing whether they have a few kids or not. You could guess at a few of them, but what you really want to get down to at the core level is to understand your prospect from the perspective of what are their dreams, what are their fears, what are the things that motivate them, what are the things that are important to them in their lives beyond just sort of the materialistic or things that you could just easily categorize, because that's the stuff that motivates people to action. I was studying copywriting a few years back, and I believe it was Michel Fortin, but I'm not sure. I'd love to give him credit for it if it was him. If it was somebody else, I apologize, and they deserve the credit instead. But I remember he was saying that he did some copywriting for a hair loss solution. I don't remember what the solution was. It doesn't really matter. But the point is, he was working with all these different headlines and all of these different sorts of ideas. And when he came in and did the copywriting for this company, all of a sudden their sales and their customer base skyrocketed. And I remember the main headline that he used was "suffering from hair loss" with a question mark. And at first it seems pretty obvious. You say, well, of course that would work. But think about it from the perspective of the company who hadn't already had this tagline. They, on the surface, could target people that had hair loss, right? That's a very obvious marketing aspect, and it's a simple demographic, okay? People with hair loss. But here's the issue. Not everybody with hair loss cares. I don't have any hair on my head. I don't care. I shave it off. It's actually easier. My life is easier. I'm not suffering, which means I'm not a great prospect for those kinds of products. So if you're targeting me and you're spending your marketing dollars on me, you're going to need to convince me that somehow wanting hair is useful. That's a lot harder sell than it is to go to somebody who's feeling, I'm a little uncomfortable. I don't really want to talk to anybody socially. I don't want to be seen on camera or anywhere in public. I wear hats all the time. That is suffering from hair loss. And if you're reaching out to somebody like that with that same kind of campaign, just imagine how much more powerful that is. Now, boom, you've got them. Yeah, they're suffering from hair loss. They're going to listen to what you have to say, and your chances of converting them are a lot higher. So that's the importance of really understanding beyond demographics. If you're going after demographic and you see that people have children, and you know that for the most part, people concerned about sending their kids to college, you might target all demographic of adults at a certain age with, teenage children. And you might be selling some sort of college scholarship prep or, whatever. But here's the problem. Again, if their children are going into the trades, they're going to be carpenters or they're going to be plumbers, or they are actually have a family business that they're going to be taking over. Do they care? Maybe not. Maybe they don't even care. So all of those advertising dollars are wasted. All that marketing effort is wasted. And your marketing message is diluted because you're trying to go after a market that doesn't totally resonate with what you're looking for. So the power of understanding your customer on that level is you can highly target it and focus on that particular segment. When you do that, your costs go down, your revenue goes up, your competition becomes irrelevant because you're dialing right in to the people, and they feel, as when they're seeing your advertising and your marketing and your promotion, like this company or this person really understands me. When they feel that way, they're not interested in the competitors because they know that you get them. I don't know if you've ever had this experience, but I've seen an ad before, or I've read one online, a sales page, where I start reading it and then it will say, I know what you're thinking, and it'll say what you're thinking. When they nail that and they're right that that's exactly what you're thinking, that is so powerful because you're locked in. You're like, how did you know that? How did you know that that's what I was thinking? But it's because the person who wrote that copy understood exactly who they were talking to. And here's a common mistake, which is what leads to this lack of focus. A lot of entrepreneurs and business owners, we're optimists. We see the potential and the possibilities with everything. So it's very easy to look at something and go, well, look, if I market this thing to all adults, just imagine how much I'll sell. I mean, why exclude parts of the market? But what ends up happening is you end up getting less of every market, and your competitors that are more targeted get more of it. And so eventually you get squeezed out. Let me give you a perfect example of this. Let's say that you're making a dog training course, and that's what you're selling. If you target every dog owner, okay, you're going to have some success because there are a lot of dog owners. However, here's the problem. Let's say competitor A makes a particular product for poodles to train poodles. And competitor B makes a product to specifically stop dogs from peeing in the house or barking at the door. Now, if I'm somebody who owns a dog and I have a training problem with my dog and I'm like, they're not behaving well, and I go and I see your 3 ads, first of all, if I have a poodle, I'm going right to the poodle guy because he's talking my language. He's selling exactly what I want. If I have a dog that's barking and peeing on the carpet, I'm going to the other competitor. And you're sort of the general person in the middle, and this is where you can get sliced and diced because as each competitor comes in with a specific focus, training for Dobermans, training for, heeling and walking off leash, training for, Weimaraners and St. Bernards, eventually you get to a point where you're the general person in the market and you don't have any customers left because they've all gone to the people who specialize. And again, the reason they're able to specialize is because they understand their customer. They know that when you're training a poodle, these are the common behaviors that people have problems with poodles. So they create a training course that allows you to do that. So it's vitally important you get a very good understanding of your market and your target customer. I recommend that you try to create an avatar. You sit down and you think of a particular customer. You make an avatar or an image of one person who represents your target market. Now, there'll be some other people in there as well. You can create a few of these if you want. Like if you have an audience that's 50-50 male and female, you may want to make a male and a female avatar. You want to get as much detail as you can about them. What, their age, their, geography, whether they're homeowners, all that demographic stuff. And then you want to dig into their fears, their dreams. Now, this is a great exercise because if you try to do this and you can't do it, it means you don't have enough information. Okay? If you can do it, every time you do any marketing piece from here on out, you think exactly of that one person. Give them a name too. Think exactly of that one person and you market to that one person. And it will resonate like crazy with your market. Your sales will explode and you won't even have to worry about competition, cash flow, any of this other stuff that people attribute to business failure. Because the reality of it is, it comes down to not making enough revenue because you don't understand the customers. If you don't have this information and you need to start getting it right away. Now, you can join forums, you can go on Facebook and join groups where your customers hang out. You can talk to your existing customers. If you speak to them or you see them face to face or you do email or whatever, you can ask them certain questions. And one of the great ways to do it, and it's one of my favorites, is to use surveys. You could create an online survey with 10 questions or so, gather a bunch of information about people, and start to build this profile. If you're starting from scratch, you may need to do a few surveys because you can't ask them 30 questions. No one's going to fill it out. You just do 5 to 10 multiple choice or whatever, maybe one fill in the answer, and then you sort of take that data, you collect it, and you start to add to this avatar. Then what you do is you do another one later, and you add another piece, and you put it together just like a puzzle until you have a real clear idea of this avatar, and then you market to that. And you will find that all of those issues that typical entrepreneurs run into, you will be able to sidestep that stuff and blow right by it, because you'll have a lock on your market. Your customers will love you, and you'll never need to worry about competition or being able to make enough sales again. If you have any questions or comments, share them with me at leverageshow.com. And as always, until next time, make it happen.